Moira is one of the most dynamic support heroes in Overwatch 2, and it's easy to see why. With her powerful healing, high mobility and decent damage output, Moira has the tools to support her team effectively while pressuring the enemy. But she also faces limitations, particularly against heroes with armor and abilities that counter her orbs. Today I'll cover how to play around these challenges and make the most of her unique kit. In this guide we'll show you everything you need to know on how to start playing Moira like a pro, from core mechanics to advanced strategies, go through her playstyle, key matchup, combos, positioning and team synergy, and some essential tips and tricks. Moira is a hybrid support who combines healing and damage to control the battlefield. She's not just a healer, her biotic grasp and biotic orb allow her to apply pressure as a secondary damage dealer. However, armor greatly reduces her damage output, making it essential to focus on squishier targets or prioritize healing in these matchups. Moira's damage is less effective against armored heroes like Reinhardt and D.Va and Thor and Brig. Additionally, D.Va's defense matrix can absorb Moira's biotic orbs. This is also true for Sigma's absorb ability, and this will reduce her effectiveness. Knowing these counters can help you make smarter decisions in combat, such as using a healing orb on your team instead of shooting a damage orb into the enemy team that would just get sucked up, and focusing more on healing when armored enemies are present. At the start of engagements, Moira biotic grasp is crucial for both healing and pressuring enemies. Unlike other supports, her damage output is consistent but diminished against armor. For maximum impact, focus on squishy targets for damage while also using your healing resources to heal all your team. Your healing can hit multiple targets at the same time, so Moira is very powerful when it comes to healing a big chunk of teammates, right? So if your teammates are all walking through the choke, you throw a healing orb and just heal them and deal damage to squishy. And we also need to talk about Moira having to deal damage to recharge her healing. This is a crucial mechanic to keep track of, since you can run out of healing basically. So it's very important that you try to deal damage, and sending your damage orb also collects healing that you can use. And a tip I can give to you is, if you tap your mouse instead of holding it in, you can recharge the healing bar faster. So this is if you just need the healing really quickly, you just tap, 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 and it will recharge much faster than holding it in. Moira's ultimate, Coalescence, is highly impactful, allowing you to deal damage and heal through barriers. It can turn the tide of fights when used at choke points or in close quarters, where multiple targets are guaranteed. This ultimate is particularly valuable against tank heavy compositions where you need sustained damage and healing. Use Coalescence strategically to support your tanks, especially if D.Va or high armor heroes are disrupting your regular attacks. Also remember to try to line up with dealing damage and healing at the same time, so you can heal your teammates and deal damage since it goes through. And another important thing to mention here is that we should throw a damage orb right before we pop our Coalescence, because we can't use them during our Coalescence. And another thing people tend to do is you can fade behind enemy team, throw the orb and use Coalescence and burst down targets quickly, but you need to be aware Ana sleep, Reinhardt shatter and all that, so it can be a risky play. But remember, when you use Coalescence, people will try to stun you. So like Brigitte ult, people will pop that when you use Moira ult, so be prepared to have fade for that as well. Like if you're gonna fade behind them, fade so you have some distance or can hide behind cover. But a classic Moira move is to use fade to engage or disengage. I mainly recommend to use this to disengage, because if you engage with fade, you're cooked. If you don't kill the enemy or have like teammates close to you, like you will be dead and people will focus you. And doing this, fading to engage or disengage, you can pop a biotic orb or for healing or for damage, and you can actually animation cancel the orb throw by throwing it and fading immediately. When facing D.Va, be aware of her defense matrix range. Try to bait it out before deploying your orb, so it makes it harder for her to absorb it, or try to shoot it so it will bounce and go behind her, so she'll have to turn around to get it. Against armor targets, if a D.Va is present, switch to a healing orb and prioritize keeping your tanks alive while dodging her matrix. That your healing orb is dodging your matrix. Moira thrives when positioned just behind her tank or mid-range from enemies. Avoid the frontline and use fade to keep distance from flankers. When facing counters like D.Va, keep to open areas where you have the freedom to fade away, since she can pretty quickly burst you down if she just flies at you, and you cannot pop a healing orb because she will just eat it, right? Remember, Moira is squishy and can be quickly overwhelmed if caught out of position, so always be aware of escape route. One of the most important skills for Moira players is resource management. Keep an eye on your healing meter, especially when dealing with high armor enemies that reduce your damage efficiency. Instead of aggressive pushes, position yourself to support tanks or DPS heroes under heavy fire and avoid wasting resources on armored enemies. Dealing with counters and common matchup, D.Va is a tough matchup for Moira because she can absorb both healing and damage orb. When D.Va is on the field, use Fade to reposition, wait until she depletes her defense matrix, then release orbs. Focus on healing when she's nearby and save your biotic orb for after she uses her matrix. Other counters such as Roadhog and Doomfist. Roadhog's Chain Hook and Doomfist's high burst damage can challenging for Moira due to her low health. For this matchup, prioritize staying behind your tank and keep Fade ready for quick escape. If you're isolated, it's best to avoid engaging these heroes altogether, because you have such a low damage, you will not be able to kill none of them. Team synergy and parrying. Moira's Coalescence is highly effective when used alongside tank ultimates. Combine it with Reinhardt's Earth Shatter or Syra's Graviton Surge to maximize its impact. The healing component of Coalescence can keep allies alive during aggressive pushes, while the damage component helps secure kills on stunned or grouped up enemies. Moira shines when healing clustered teammates. Keep an eye on group formations, particularly when tanks engage, as you'll get more value from your healing resources. If your team is spread out, rely on biotic orbs to reach teammates who are further away. Learning to control and angle Moira's biotic orbs can greatly increase your effectiveness. Bounce healing orbs off walls to maximize their duration in enclosed areas. Mastering orb angles can also help avoid having them absorbed by D.Va defense matrix. Another thing I would say is in a Moira 1v1, it's always best to use healing orb and bounce it using the like roof and floor if you can, or 2 walls. You will always win if you put out the healing orb. Fade is Moira's lifeline. Practice using Fade to dodge enemy ultimates like Reinhardt Earthshatter or McCree Deadeye. Anticipate enemy movement and abilities and try using Fade at the last second to throw off enemies aiming for you. This level of Fade management makes a huge difference in higher level play. Also, it's important to note that you can jump higher with Fade, and you can also use obstacles to get up at very difficult spots. So similar to Bridget's shield bash, you can like get up in many weird places where you normally can't with the normal Fade jump. Fade can be used to bait enemies into overextending. For example, if you're low on health, fade around the corner or behind cover, then return with healing orb or biotic grabs to surprise enemies who chase. This tactic can help you turn around fight and secure eliminations when enemies least expect it. And that's it for our Moira guide. With these advanced tips, you'll be well prepared to maximize Moira's potential, even against tough matchups like D.Va and armored heroes. Remember to adapt based on your team's needs and the enemy's composition. Practice is key, and with time you'll become a more adept and impactful Moira player. Don't forget to subscribe for more Overwatch guides, tips and strategies to level up your gameplay.